All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to afternoon show of No Holds Barred Wrestling Podcast. I'm Bobby Melendez. That's Josh Kimmel. I'm excited to come on here. We got plenty to talk about. Of course, WWE had an awesome SmackDown last night. So we got some AEW talk because you want to talk specifically about a couple things. But our main subject today is top 10 most shocking moments in wrestling history. And just to throw it out there, we're not going to be talking about like, oh my goodness, this person passed away or this murder or it's in wrestling like storyline, what made you jump type of things. We're going to talk about that. But before we roll into it, Josh, brother, how you doing, man?
Man, I cannot complain about today. Let me tell you, this weather, I could wear sweatpants and not sweat. Not to the long sleeves yet. I mean, we're not long sleeve weather yet, but at least we're pants weather. So that's nice to know. I know you're in Tennessee. You guys get the cool fall, like
Very nice.
brown leaves, Funny story real quick about that. I'm playing Pokemon Go with my son, and they have different backgrounds for the seasons, right? Like if you're in the beach, you get a beach background. If you're in the woods, whatever. So we were just like kind of in the nature at a park. And he goes, Dada, why are you catching this Pokemon and the leaves are brown? What's going on with that? Like, why are the leaves brown? The trees are green. And I'm like, son, because you live in Florida all your life. You've never seen fall. And you never will unless you get out of here. So I had to explain to my son what fall was this morning. So it was pretty nice.
There you go. There you go. And my goodness, Pokemon, man. So you're playing and you're doing that right now. Full disclosure, you're on a hunt for Pokemon. So if anybody sees this,
yeah,
he's on a Pokemon.
First off, I am in line for a Pokemon raid battle, which if you know that, it is what it is. And I also have my notes on my phone because I was too lazy because I was watching. By the way, I watched every clip from my shocking moment list on YouTube before the show. For the past hour, I've just been watching YouTube videos of my entire clips from 10 to 1 to see if I should move them from up and down. So if I'm looking down a lot, all my notes are on my phone too. And I have a lot of notes. Not a lot, just more notes than usual.
So my most shocking list, I just remembered I left it out there. So I'm going to have to go in my head. I know what my number one is, so that will be easy. So, but that really sucks. Now I just remembered that. So, but
you can go get it. I can carry the show, brother. I can go off on an AEW rant. I don't know if you read what I sent you, but the words coming out of Kenny Omega's mouth, it just.
I couldn't listen to his words. I just kept looking at his face. I was thrown off.
Hey, Kenny Omega's a freaking legend, bro.
Yes. Outside of the main wrestling, he's a legend. For the basement dwellers. But anywho, no, I'm just playing.
This freaking guy. Did you see the heat between Kenny Omega and Xavier Woods, and did you fall for it? They're really good friends in real life. No, they were talking trash.
Were they?
Xavier Woods is like, I'm something about video games, and I'm a great professional wrestler. And Kenny Omega's like, yeah, I heard you're good at video games, but I've never seen you wrestle. Like, you got to get better on that second one. And Xavier was like, oh, you want to go? Because they're sports entertainers over there.
Yeah,
so he knows a big thing. So it's funny because they've always been going at it. They're big video game guys. Obviously, Xavier Woods with the up, down, down. Kenny Omega does live streams with his video games. So that's why they're friends. But
there you go. Well, anyway. Xavier Woods has a lot of history outside of WWE. That's what people only see him as the third wheel in New Day, but he actually in TNA he was pretty big there too. But let's get very quick before we get into some of the AEW talk because I know you do want to talk about Kenny Omega, but I want to talk about SmackDown very quick. Very interesting show. Naomi and Nia was the main event, but the talk of the night. Well, probably was. I don't know if this aired. I didn't see this. I did not see this on SmackDown, but I think this was afterwards. And WWE's been doing that a lot lately. Is posting videos after the show that continue their storylines. Was the Roman Reigns on the phone? Did you see Roman Reigns call Paul Heyman? Do you see what happened?
He made the call to Paul after.
So,
that's good.
Yeah. So let me just say how it goes. Since I don't think it went on air. I don't think it aired. I might be crazy. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. But I saw it afterwards, and it was after the fight, and it was after it was revealed that Bronson Reed looks like he will be a part of the War Games. So, i.e., Seth more than likely would be part of the War Games, even though Seth was saying I want nothing to do with Roman Reigns on Raw. But Sami Zayn did say, though, full disclosure, that I have someone else I could call, and I think it's going to be good. So that's interesting, even though if it's Bronson, it has to be Seth. But anyway, when he was sitting in the back. He's all beat up. Roman, he's in this chair, gets his phone, tells Siri, call the wise man. The crowd pops. The crowd pops. And all of a sudden you hear, this number is disconnected. Please
Ah.
again. The number has been disconnected. And Roman just goes, drops the phone, looks defeated. That's how it ends. This storyline continues to get interesting. It is so good. You got to be so invested in it. It's hard not to be invested in the Bloodline storyline. Bronson Reed makes a lot of sense. I mean, I wish it stood foot on 4-4.
Yep.
4-4.
Yeah.
But Bronson Reed makes sense just because how dangerous he is, and it kind of like, damn, now you got Jacob, and now you got Bronson Reed. And then you had the intriguing storyline. I rather see Seth than Cody Rhodes. That's me. I don't want to see Cody and Kevin. I didn't want to see that at all. They need to be separate. But Seth Rollins makes sense because of his relationship with Roman Reigns. Before we get into that, though, what did you think of that segment with the OG Bloodline with their shirts? OG Bloodline taking on that fight with the new Bloodline.
No, it's everything you wanted, right? Like SmackDown's been on fire week after week ever since Roman's been back. It's been great. I can't not go forward to the Bronson Reed stuff though. I can't not, like, that's what's bugging me, Bobby. It doesn't make sense. You might think it makes sense to have Seth there, Bronson there. You as a viewer, I'm talking, not you as a person, Bobby. Just you as a viewer, you might think this is awesome or makes sense, and it will be good. Like Bronson Reed's a great addition. But at the end of the day, why is he getting involved? Was there a reason? Is there going to be a reason? Is it because he wants to? His whole thing with Seth was, I want to be on top. Give me more TV time. So did Solo say, hey, bro, you want to be on top? Come with the top guys. I'll make you a deal that you can't resist. I'll get you more TV time, blah, 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 whatever it may be. But this is going to add Seth to the match, which why would Seth ever agree to face or team up with Roman? He has no reason to. Yep. He risked his life. He risked his life. Tony Khan over there. He risked his title reign to help Cody take everything away from Roman. And now he's like, you know what? I'll help you get it back 1 year later. Roman hasn't changed. Roman's the same character. So in my eyes, I don't see why Seth would ever, like, okay, you guys want Bronson? Not my problem, right? He'll go fight someone else, CM Punk. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it is someone else. Maybe Seth is moving on to someone else.
So that's a great point, because again, I did see a clip of Sami Zayn saying, there might be someone else he could call. He does tell Jey Uso does tell Roman, you need to make that call, and that's when the new Bloodline Jacob Solo Sikoa's badass music plays. I just love that damn thing. I've been jamming out to it on the ride home from work. But and then that kind of stalls it. And of course, it may have been Paul Heyman. And if it's Paul Heyman, who's that fifth guy? You just brought up an interesting name, CM Punk. What's CM Punk doing for Survivor Series? Does he have anything planned? Have we seen anything for CM Punk at Survivor Series? I mean, because it's Bronson Reed, it screams Seth Rollins. And obviously that's that instant connection between Roman and Seth. And you're going to get that nostalgia. Oh, putting Bronson Reed through the table with the powerbomb with Seth, and, doing that whole Shield kind of reunion thing. You got to figure out all the little storylines, but then it's kind of like, I don't trust you. This is a one-off. But CM Punk is a Paul Heyman guy. Now, here's the problem, though. If Paul Heyman's phone's disconnected and he hasn't talked to Roman since WrestleMania, and he didn't give Roman his new number, then who's Paul with? What's going on with Paul? Is he with the final boss? Is there I don't want to say that because there's no inkling of that. Obviously, CM Punk makes sense. But what about Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, Brock. I'd rather, if you give me an opportunity, Josh, book the show, you can choose from Brock, Seth, or CM Punk. I'm choosing Brock. And here's why. And here's the only reason why. Because Seth fought everything. Seth fought to take it away from Roman. So why would he give it back? CM Punk has no business in there at all. The only tie is Paul Heyman. Okay, if the only tie is, then where does he go from there? So what's the story from there? I help you win your title back, Roman, and then I want a title. Like, where does that go? Or Brock, which hear me out. What does he have to do with it? To elevate Bronson Reed. They can spin off into another other feud of their own. Now we have big Bronson Reed versus Brock Lesnar heading into the Netflix era, right? How else can you get big Bronson Reed over with a Brock Lesnar in this storyline? That'd be more fun for me to see, but I don't know if we're ready to see Brock Lesnar back on TV. So unfortunately, I do think it's going to be Seth at the very end of the day because it's WWE and predictable is not bad. This could be a very good match, but it is predictable. And I think if it was going to be Kevin Owens, then it was going to be Cody. If it was going to be Bronson, it's going to be Seth. And it's just now we get to see how they do it. How do they get Seth in there?
Remember, I had brought that up earlier while we were, because we all knew where this was kind of headed, but I was like, another way you can go, especially after the attack on Paul, you could be Roman, CM Punk, and Brock, kind of Paul Heyman guys. I don't know who the fourth one could be at that point, but
Cesaro.
Still, but they didn't. Well, he's on AEW.
But remember that one time he came out with Paul Heyman, like that one
That's
time?
right. Yeah. One time. Yeah. Braun Breaker, maybe.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, you see. Well, but it looks like it might more than likely will be Seth. I think it would be really cool. I think it'll be a bigger pop if it's Brock, but Brock with the OG bloodline makes no sense to me unless Brock turns on Roman after the match, F5s in the middle of the ring and just tears up the bloodline, kidding that if Brock actually did come back, that's the only way. The Rock staring down Roman Reigns and Cody. I can't see The Rock teaming with OG bloodline unless again there's a turn at the end. I think it's Seth and Bronson. Honestly, Bronson, I think it's confirmed. It's just Seth. So it's going to be interesting to see how that continues to play out. All I know, whether we like it or not, we're all heavily invested in what the turnout's going to be, and that's why the Bloodline storyline is probably maybe the best storyline in WWE. I mean, it's right there next to a few of them. I mean, if not already surpassed it. Very quick. Just want to hit this up very quick. Ciampa, Tommaso Ciampa, pushes Johnny Gargano. We talked about, that NXT run, the heel turn, the heel run that he had in NXT was bar none in NXT. We could be seeing that pretty damn soon. You're going to see a Gargano Ciampa match, and then Ciampa could be LA Knight's
opponent. Yes.
Yeah, going forward. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Ciampa needs to do something. He's been wasted ever since he debuted on the main roster, clowning around with the Miz for some reason. And then he got into this tag team with DIY, which never got momentum. They only won the title so they can drop him to the bloodline. That was it. They're transitional champions at best. Let's see Ciampa, see what he can do. Let's see what Johnny Gargano can do. Let's see if he can get a Daniel Bryan kind of push where he's the underdog. Let's see if Ciampa could be. We need to see it because this tag team's going nowhere, like literally nowhere.
I want to see Ciampa more than I would see Gargano, even though Gargano in the ring's fun, but Ciampa I could see as a top heel on SmackDown. Even if it's just like a run-off match with Cody, I mean, I could see that really paying off. But yeah, so you have some notes, or you want to discuss some topics on AEW, man?
Yeah. Did you happen to click on those links I sent you? They weren't spam, I promise.
That's fun. I did. Well, actually, I think I didn't see the Kenny Omega. I did not look at that, but I did see about what John Moxley had what did say about AEW. I briefly saw what he was saying.
So let's start on the John Moxley thing. So we all know John Moxley's in this huge storyline where he's taken over, where he was seized in the TBS Superstation. He was taking over AEW Dynamite. Everyone works for him now. So he's actually had an interview with the New York Post, which I thought was very fascinating. I read most of it. It's a hard reset for the company. He's admitted it. This is off character. This is, whatever his name is, John Good, I believe it is, Jonathan Good. This is him speaking. He's pretty much saying everything that happened up to this point does not matter. This is day zero. They're beginning new, fresh, new look. And what I read from this entire interview is this is Hogan. This is Hogan and Tony Khan's Eric Bischoff. And Eric Bischoff was a mark, and Tony Khan's a mark. And if you give creative control, which John Moxley has, it Tony Khan has given him, says it right here. I do what I want. Tony Khan has to approve it. All these are my ideas. These ideas have been bad. Everything's been bad. Facing off against low to mid-lower guys as your this gigantic takeover is not working. So my thing to you, I'm asking you is, this is the problem. When Hogan was running WCW behind Eric Bischoff, things were going downhill. It sucked because Hogan had all these ideas and they're all bad ideas. He thought he was a pro wrestling genius. Hulk Hogan did. He thought he was the smartest man there.
He
Now
thought he was
Moxley,
Vince. He thought he was Vince McMahon.
yeah, he thought he
Yeah.
knew. Now, if you listen to Jericho, you listen to these guys. They all have Taker. They all have big egos. They all think
Sure.
they're creative geniuses, and they all think they know what they're doing was right. Right? John Cena, all of them, because it takes that to be a big star. He thinks this idea is going to save AEW, and in reality, is he's the problem with AEW because he's ruining it by having creative control and doing whatever he wants, no matter what the cost. And I think it's ruining the company right now. And I'd just like to get your thoughts on that. Should anyone have creative control or direction as a professional wrestler? Like, would you trust anybody in your wrestling company to say, you know what, I will take over this, I'll write the storyline, and I'll present it the way I want? Because this isn't Tony Khan's vision. Then this would now be Jon Moxley's vision.
Yeah. So, but let me ask this before I answer that, and just if we go off topic, ask me again. Doesn't everybody in AEW have control? I thought this because that's why they don't have writers. They have to go through Tony Khan, but that's why Jericho is what he's doing, and why Jon Moxley did what he's doing. And Mercedes Marné is doing what she's doing, because it's like a lot of these guys are going like, what the hell? You think of MJF, and you know how much I love MJF. But 1 minute he's the hero and Adam Cole's getting scared when he's coming in the ring, and all of a sudden a couple weeks later, MJF's in the ring and Adam Cole comes out. Now MJF is scared. Don't they all have creative control in that way? Okay. That they don't have writers like WWE.
I'm gonna read
their thing. It's their story.
I'll read this to you. This is straight from Moxley's mouth.
Okay.
All right. So Moxley also made it. Moxley also made it clear that AEW needs to throw away the old rule book and stay on the cutting edge. And here's what he says. It can be whatever the F we want it to be. There's no rules. Any rules we have, we got to have, interviews on this set, look like we have to be this way. We go into this up. And this is what he's saying. I can't read word for word. It makes no sense. Mm-hmm. Any of the rules we have are just things we put on ourselves. It's pro wrestling, man. It's always evolving. And even if you got to stay evolving with it, or you get left behind. So he's basically saying is, there's no more rules to AEW, as in you don't need to have interviews this way. You don't need to have rules. Any match could be a match. It doesn't matter. That's why, in my opinion, when you have Moxley pulling at Tony Khan this way, then you have Mercedes pulling at him this way, then you have Jericho pulling at him from underneath, and then you have Britt Baker chirping in his ear. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and therefore the show will make no sense. What if the head coach of the Miami Dolphins said, all right, guys, you do what you want. Tyreek's like, I'm just running 9 routes. Waddle's like, all right, I'm just running curl routes. Mostert's like, I ain't blocking. Like, they just do whatever they want. That would be a mess, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. No, and we talked about this. I think this was one of when we were talking oh my goodness, was it the WCW? Who killed WCW? And we talked about creative control, and I asked you, because everybody knocks Hogan for creative control, but he was given creative control. And I asked you, is there one guy in wrestling that you would give if you started a company, but you wanted him, and you're like, I would give this guy creative control? And you brought up one name, and that was Roman Reigns. Right? And again, should anybody, because again, if you hire an actor, if you're directing a movie and you wrote a movie and you hire an actor, you got to tell the actor, hey, you're going to have creative control of this movie. Even though I wrote all these lines for you, you could change this story. That's going to screw up your story, because now this character that you're trying to build up for the next movie, or this villain, it's going to mess everything up. The one guy who did that was Sylvester Stallone, just because he made Rocky. And so every movie he goes in, he wants to rewrite the movie. And of course, we love Stallone movies, or at least I do. But there's only a few guys that can do it, and get away with it. And, you look at, even though Roman Reigns obviously has control over his character, has control over the stories, he works with Paul Heyman. He works for Triple H. He's working with building these stories up, and then again building up these other guys unselfishly, and maybe selfishly in a way, because you got to protect yourself as well. You can't go on getting dog food shoved in your mouth like Roman got a couple like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Creative control to an extent. Creative control to an extent. If I signed you, Josh, and obviously you're going to want control over your guy, but I'm going to say, Josh, well, just okay, FTSN. Okay, Josh, you have control over OUS, and it's your show, and you have control over Real Talk Wrestling, and Beer and Sport, whatever. Yeah, you got control, but you in order to do something crazy, like, oh, Bobby, I want to do a cuss fest, and I want to do this and this, and TNA and da. You're gonna have to talk to me before you do it, right? Because because again, but it's creative control up to a point. And same thing with Jon Moxley. Yeah, dude, you could, you got to protect your character, and I want you to, I think you're smart enough to put on some good crap on TV because you know what the fans want, and you're a fan and whatever. But it can't be a free for all. This is not going to work, because it's going to, even though you have nothing to do with this story over here or these two guys over here. By you doing this, you could kill off those two guys over there. It's like a domino effect. And that's like what happened with, you think of WCW with Hogan, or, you think of these other guys, but, Hogan had created control, and you're building up, let's say, a Booker T and a Jeff Jarrett. And even though they have nothing to do with Hogan right here, and Hogan's having matches with Warrior and the New Blood and all this other crap, as soon as Booker T now is elevated to a point where Booker T has to be in this equation now, or Jeff Jarrett has to be in this equation, Hogan's still over here doing his own thing. Now you're like, hey man, I'm gonna have you, you're gonna drop the belt to Jeff Jarrett, and he's gonna drop it to Booker T. And I was like, wait a second, that don't work for me. Now you kind of screwed up their story, and then you're messing with this one. That's why it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's to me, it's creative control to an extent.
I agree. That makes sense. I agree with everything you said. So that's the Jon Moxley gist. I want to get to the Kenny Omega. We can answer that. Why is Jim Cornette not utilized more in pro wrestling? He obviously knows the ins and outs of no. I respect Jim Cornette and what he did. I listen to Jim Cornette. I listen to Jim Cornette when I'm playing Lego Fortnite, and I turn the volume down, and sometimes I'll listen to Jim Cornette. No joke.
No, I got you.
But I don't agree with 50% of the things he says, because he's still in the past. I believe in Jon Moxley as things do evolve. Things do. And it's okay to evolve, but not to the extent of 500 pile drivers mixed with, like, I was watching a match on Dynamite, man. This dude did 3 finishing moves back to back to back, pins him 1-2, kicks out. The man gets up. The dude clotheslines him 1-2-3. You couldn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, I get that. I get those gripes. But wrestling is evolving, and we all do need to realize a wrist lock and a chin lock and babyface versus heel isn't always the right way. Sometimes you can't have.
I as you know, Josh and Cap, I am a more old school type of fan. I enjoy the stories. I enjoy the classic type of wrestling. But the Jim Cornette not more involved it's because wrestling has evolved in what you were saying. I mean, he's not into what wrestling is. He would go way too back to those traditional, I love listening to Jim Cornette. I love listening to his stories. I love listening to the psychiatry, wrestling and all this whatnot. But if I'm running a wrestling show, like you were talking about creative control, would I hire Jim Cornette to produce it? No, I'd probably hire him as an advisor, someone to, be a bug in my ear to tell me, hey man, maybe we should try this, because I respect that. Yep. There's other guys like, I mean, the same thing, like, you think of, like, I say Bubba Ray Dudley. Love listening to Bubba Ray Dudley. He might be somewhere where I say, hey, I be a bug in my freaking ear. Paul Heyman would be a guy I'd automatically be like. But
real quick,
yeah.
Real quick before we move on to the Kenny Omega thing. Kenny Omega will be quick too. Do you so I'm off, as you know, I'm off social media. I'm back, but I'm not like fully back.
Yeah.
I just touch and go with Twitter and in social media. The whole Bully Ray MJF thing, is this real? Are they really beefing, or is this like all jokes? Because I saw Bully Ray was on NXT and he posted his video, Demo Gods, whatever, like, right? Like him and Trick and Demo Gods, because they beat AEW. And then MJF puts a picture of a big guy on like a meet and greet, and was a bigger dude, and then MJF's like, "Hey, look, Bully Ray waited all this time and got a picture with me." Posted that on Twitter, and then Bully Ray like commented back to MJF, like they're going back and forth. Like, is that real heat? Is this real life, or are they just ribbing us?
With Bubba Ray, Bully Ray, I
Have you seen this?
no, I haven't, and I'm gonna
Okay.
jump on now and look just to see because he's always going back and forth with people, especially I mean, and you could tell when he's telling some guy to go shut up, but let me see.
I like Bubba Ray. He quote tweeted me one time and called me an idiot, but we didn't like squash it like DMs. But I was like, yeah, you're right, dude. And he liked my comment. But like I like him. I actually think he's good. I think his ideas are terrible. I think every time I listen to Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray fantasy book, they're just both of them are very very bad. I think they're terrible bookers. I think they're really good entertainers and wrestlers, and they could have some input like a advisor. But man, those guys, their ideas are just awful. Like Bully Ray advising, like, oh, I think this guy should beat this. Like, no, dude, stop. Oh, shock this system. We should have, Tozawa beat this guy. Shut up, Bully. Like, dude, no.
Shot this, well, again, the only reason why I would say Bubba Ray and we haven't really seen them book. I mean, I would probably point out probably TNA, and I think Bully Ray was a great character, and I enjoyed his run in TNA. But I will say, under the tree of Paul Heyman, that's why I would be like, and Tommy Dreamer's another one of those guys. Again, I don't think one guy should be running anything. I think it should be like the old days. If I opened up a wrestling company promotion, and my goal obviously would not be a gymnasium. Oh yeah, man. I would be wanting to go big, but it would be a board. Hey guys, we're going to vote on who's going to be the champion. All right, 10-2, or whatever the hell it is, or 8 out of 10 guys voted this guy. Okay, this guy's going to be champion, whether we like it or not. Of course, I'm running it. I probably have some final say. Like, no, we're not.
You're like,
doing
okay,
that.
guys, everyone's vote count. We got 10 guys. Everyone's vote counts for 1. My vote counts for 11.
That's right.
So,
we're not going to do, all right, 8 guys voted for Orange Cassidy. Yeah, that's not going to happen, guys. We're going to change this up. We're not doing Orange Cassidy. All right, let's just let that go.
Speaking of Orange Cassidy, Kenny Omega was actually did an interview with Sean Ross Sapp. He blocked me on Twitter, by the way. Sean Ross, not Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is my hero. So he did an interview with him, and Kenny Omega did return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, by the way, not AEW, where he's contracted and helped build that company. So Sean Ross asked, why are you not returning to AEW? Instead, you're going to New Japan Pro Wrestling for his debut match. He's confirmed. He's wrestling in New Japan, not AEW.
I did see that. Yeah.
So, all right. So he says, Kenny Omega, everything is flowing like clockwork right now. I feel like there's a spot for all the hardworking men and women that are on those shows. I feel like when there's an opportunity again, when there's a chance, sure, I'd love to be back if you guys can have me. But right now, I feel like AEW has a good thing going. I don't think they need me. So, do you think this is I'm the company man carrying the flag and supporting AEW, saying they don't need me, they are on a hot streak, everything's good to go? Or do you think he's like, I don't want anything to do with that company anymore. I'm staying away as far as I can. I'm getting away, and I'd rather wrestle in New Japan.
I think it leans more towards the second one. Maybe not to that extreme where it's like, I want to stay. It's just what's there for me, and he might even feel more freedom and less critique on New Japan than he would do in AEW. Because if it comes to AEW and let's say, you right, what would be the automatic feud? I mean, but is it Swerve?
Who
Swerve?
for Kenny Omega?
Yeah,
it'd be Moxley. It'd be Moxley saving the company. It'd be against the Death Riders and Moxley saving the company. That is where he belongs.
Yeah, and does he really want to go where maybe there's no clear picture on where anything is going and all that whatnot? I mean, obviously, if I'm AEW running AEW, I want him back. I would, again, and you got to define the monarchy within AEW on who's the top guys, who's the mid card guys, who's the low card guys, so that way you could kind of filter them all out together. There's no filter right now, I don't think, in AEW. I mean, you don't know who's going to be. They're talking about. I've read about Darby Allin. Oh, Darby Allin should be the next AEW champion, and what? Who? And I get it. Oh, he's tag team with Sting, and oh my goodness, but is anybody really taking that? I know he
So
jumped on John Moxley, but even John Moxley looks like he could destroy Darby in real life. It's just you can't take it really that seriously. I can understand like a sneak win, not building up a storyline, but like, hey, tonight Darby Allin versus John Moxley for AEW title. Roll up 1, 2, 3. Holy crap! Chris Jericho over Triple H. Shock. That's different. That I could ride with. But like, oh, we're gonna main event at All In or whatever the next pay-per-view is because I don't give a shit. Darby Allin versus John Moxley. I'm not going to buy a ticket to watch that. I would buy a ticket even if I don't get John Moxley versus Kenny Omega. That to me, Kenny Omega saying I'm going to stay away just because I think even though he's trying to be nice and he's being politically correct, I'm staying away because they're doing so good over there. When we all know even he knows that's BS. The common fan knows that's BS. And I'm going to stay in New Japan. I want to go to New Japan. To me, if I'm AEW, I'm go, damn, that's a slap in the face. That this guy right here, who's an international wrestling, he's not, national, we all, common fan, WWE, they don't know, Kenny Omega, they familiar, but they don't know him. He's an international superstar. So to bring him over and have him with you, that's just more bread and butter. But why would you go to a headless chicken when you could stay in something where it's like kind of safe? It's safe in New Japan. It's not safe in AEW right now. At least that's where I stand on it.
I go back to, I believe, an early not interview. He was on a stream just talking about how he's a terrible EVP and how he doesn't have power anymore. And he doesn't want power. And that right there, that stream where he was opening it up about losing his EVP powers. He's EVP by title, but Tony Khan took all that away, but he doesn't want it. He just wants to wrestle. That told me a lot about his standing with the company and how he's really not looking forward to coming back. And I know that you might be against this, but look at the Motor City Machine Guns. They came in, won a title, you believe in them right away. Kenny Omega came into WWE. If he came in to the Royal Rumble, entrant 30, the roof would blow off of that place.
Sure.
It would. It happened with AJ Styles. Nobody knew who he was. Happened with the Motor City Machine Guns when he came. They came out. People loved them. Jade Cargill. No one knew who she was. She didn't have a name. She's just Jade Cargill. She's a nobody. She's still a nobody. They pop for her. So imagine Kenny Omega's music hitting at number 30 at the Rumble. I think he belongs there. I wish he would go there.
Well, that's what I say. I mean, to me, obviously, it's safe in New Japan. I'd rather, he's saying I'd rather be at New Japan where it's safe and I'm not going to get myself killed or be in a losing battle. I think realistically, if that contract was up, he would be WWE bound. 3-5 years. We know he doesn't have a lot left. We know he just got over, a bad illness or whatever. I think 5 years he could have a big time run, AJ Styles like, and have some killer matches. Put him against Cody. Put him against any of these guys, and I'm with you, I'm not against it whatsoever. I think it would be huge, and for him to shock the world, because again, even a common fan is aware of who Kenny Omega is. I don't know how many people weren't really aware of AJ Styles, even though he was nervous that nobody was going to know who he was. Good thing was he was in Orlando when I think that Royal Rumble was.
I think it was Orlando. I believe it was Orlando.
So I mean, which is TNA's, capital. But I think he could have that type of effect, and again, he's a main event guy. You can put him right in the main event picture right away, and drop the title and have a run with him for a couple years. I think it was huge. I think it's, AEW is a whole lot of mess. Did you see the video? This I sent you. I think I texted you it. The rings. Is it Gorilla Wrestling or Gorilla position TikTok of Leo Rush versus
yes.
Leo, oh my
Leo
gosh,
Rush
dude,
stop hating on Leo Rush.
Come on, man.
Stop hating on Leo Rush, man.
You know that was bad, dude.
Stop hating on Leo Rush. The worst thing I saw in wrestling this week was Jon Moxley, and then after this we'll get to the our top 10. Jon Moxley cutting his big promo about how he's taking over the world, man. I'm gonna
go back to Roman.
Go back to Roman. How? Okay. I watched these clips, and spoiler, there is an AEW shocking moment or two on my list. I went back and watched those clips.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different world, Bobby. There were fans jumping up and down off the seats. It was packed. It was well lit. The place was bananas. Go watch an AEW show now. It's
Mhm.
just
Dead as a doornail.
you can't hear me because this is me talking to the AEW show. Go back to Roman. Like that's what it is
Horrible.
now. It's bad.
It's horrible. I mean, I saw that. I saw that. He was it. You know, it's really bad when you're a fan, or no, yeah, and you go, let me turn this on, and you go to turn it on, and you have what used to be a giant megastar on one show, on one brand. You know, I mean, when you heard that guitar, and you freak out, and then and when he would talk, even though he was skinny, and now he's more buff. I mean, he looks great, you know. But you know, when he was Dean Ambrose, and the crowd would go crazy, and he'd go wild, he'd start beating the hell out of you, and the crowd would go. And now you look at him on another brand, he's big, and he's the world champion over there, and you're hearing him, and it's literally like this. It's bad enough for you to hear a random guy in the section 300 scream, "Go back to Roman."
300, brother. They're not filling the 200s, brother.
Well, it's the one guy who could, you know, a $10 ticket up there. You know, he wanted to say, you know, you're right. My bad. Section 100. you know, it's so dark in there. But Dean anyway, it just I feel for them. I really do. Yes, you know, I'm sorry. That's over. But I feel for them. I really do. But again, it's on them. I mean, and you were saying, you know, just a couple years ago, or I mean, when they started and had these moments, you know, the crowd was popping and everything else because again, it was fresh. They had the advantage of being the new thing and really riding that high, you know, and it's crazy. They didn't go 83 weeks. They never even, I don't think they ever beat WWE in anything, but they didn't even go 83 weeks.
NXT, they destroyed.
That's who they were trying to.
Okay. No, not trying. They made them move nights. They won. To this day, NXT's only beat them in ratings 3 times.
And what's that supposed to do? What's that
supposed to do? No, I'm just saying, like you said in what, that's what it was. There was a legit Wednesday night. Dude, I told this to Clutch on Thursday night, and I told Koffler this, and all the new listeners and viewers as well. Go back to that time. There was many pictures of the NXT talent, watching AEW during the show. There was many times where NXT was getting blown away by AEW, where AEW was getting closer to Raw than you guys thought. You guys just don't remember that time because that was a long time ago. But I understand we're not talking about the past, but don't ever think AEW was never in the picture. They shot themselves in the foot.
Not with WWE. NXT, okay.
They could have. And NXT is WWE. NXT is WWE.
It's the breeding ground. Come
on,
it is.
But then why does why does every single time NXT goes against AEW, they load it with their top end talent over from the main roster every single time? Why do they do that?
Because they know they can go over. It's easy. I'll just put one of our guys up there.
Not one, dude. They put Taker, Shawn Michaels, Bully Ray, Devon
Dudley. Isn't that bad that they could easily just put these legends on there and all of a sudden it's gone? It's like all these wrestling fans that proclaim, we want fresh faces, we want new blood, we want the gymnastics, Circus Olay dudes. But as soon as you put one of the oldies on the breeding ground of WWE, it's over. Yeah, because everybody's gonna turn around and go look at them.
A lot of Medicare eligible people like yourself, Bobby. Can't help it. can't help it.
All right. So
whatever.
Expenses. All right. You're gonna put most shocking moments in wrestling. You put a couple AEW things in there. I'm interested. AEW started. AEW ended.
Yeah,
all right.
I got some
again, I don't have my list here. I do have pictures, so I mean, I could try to just
go off your pictures so they all work.
Yeah, I got a few things on there. There's probably a couple more that probably popped off, but that's okay if I remember.
How'd you forget your list? Go get your list. I got this. I wasn't gonna take you 2 seconds.
Yeah. All right. Hold on.
Get your list. I got this. So anyway, while Bobby's going to get his list because Bobby is not prepared for the television broadcast. So yeah, you're pulling AEW for getting your list. You're right. Well, I'm so unprepared for the show. I don't know what's going on. Just kidding, Bobby. Love you. I cannot wait to hear your list and all these shocking moments you have. But for real, we're about to get into our top 10 pro wrestling shocking moments. I have a criteria. I don't know if Bobby can still hear me, but I'll name my criteria right now for the people that are watching. My criteria for most shocking list of pro wrestling history is I had to have watched it live. As in, I'm not going to go back in time to before my time of watching wrestling. I had to be a child or a adult or a young man or old man like I am now, watching Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, the pay-per-view of choice. That's criteria one. I had to be genuinely shocked. Criteria number two, it had to be storyline driven. We're not talking deaths. We're not talking Eddie Guerrero tragically passing away. We're not talking, the Chris Benoit situation or any kind of outside interference or any outside the world real life stuff. Talking real storylines now. So that is what we're dealing with here. And also, I am not going to be talking about like, oh, this was shocking because it's so nostalgic. No, if it happened last year and if it happened last night and if it shocked me to the levels of shockness, it makes my list. So I did watch all of mine. Yeah, shockness. I did watch all of mine right before the show from 3:00 p.m. to about 3:55. I watched every single clip. So they all hold up. They're all still shocking to me, and I did move them accordingly. When Bobby told me this list, hey, we're doing this, my number one still stayed number one. So
Oh, interesting.
First one I thought of is still number one. Did you hear my criteria?
I did not. No, I was just checking on my kids. So I was like, while I was out there, I was like,
I'll be quick. I went long-winded because I didn't know how long you'd be back or gone. I had to watch the moment live myself. It can't be something that oh man, I'm not going to burn any, but oh man, this person did this, and I was not even born yet. I had to have watched it myself. It had to be a live broadcast from any TV show that was on or pay-per-view.
Interesting. Okay.
And it could be, it doesn't have to be nostalgic just to be shocking. It could have happened last night. It could have happened 10 years ago. That's my criteria. I had to have watched it, and it has to be storyline driven.
I like that. And let me see. Let me see here. I actually like that. That's not actually a bad idea.
Because why is it shocking if I had to watch it in a replay?
Yeah, you know what I mean? For sure. I think that's great. I'm actually going to update that because now that you said that, okay, I think I'm okay. Because a lot of these I did watch, but there was probably one. Let me make sure. I'll tell you for sure. Yeah, there's one that I did not see, so I'm going to ignore that one then. Those were like you know how I do. I do top 10, and I'll do
you also ran
honorable mention or whatever, you know. So awesome. All right, so I think I have those pictures too. So hopefully I click on the right ones. I mean, I'm on my laptop, so it's a little zoomed out. But anyway, I don't have my glasses with me. But anywho, we could get rolling. I mean, do you want to start with number 10, or do you want to kind of like 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8?
Yeah, that's the way I like to do. I like to ping pong back and forth. I can start with my 10 if you like.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so mine's recent, very recent, almost 2 years ago. A person I never thought I'd see in WWE ever again. He did make his debut, and I was on this network. I was on my own podcast, Real Talk Wrestling, proclaiming for months, literally months. It was the Cody talk. Is Cody going to actually leave? Is Cody leaving? There ain't no way Cody's going back. Cody did all this. Cody slammed a sledgehammer into a throne on pay-per-view as a direct FU to Triple H in the WWE. He had his own theme song made telling you how he hates WWE and he's going to make his own kingdom. He's never going back till the freaking day. The WrestleMania preview when said Seth Rollins, mystery partner, I said it's not going to be Cody. If it's Cody, I don't know what I'll do, but it's not going to be Cody Rhodes. It was Cody Rhodes. And I was so surprised. And I was not happy. And I was very upset because Vince was still in charge at the time. And I thought this was a freaking disaster. They're going to kill everything Cody built up. They're going to murder his character. They're going to ruin everything he did. They didn't, actually. So Cody Rhodes going back to WWE was shocking to me because I actually watched his entire saga from when he left WWE till he went back. And never in my wildest dreams of him making fun of WWE on a daily effing basis thought he would ever go back. And he did. So to me, that was very, very shocking. Number 10.
There you go. I like your criteria. I'm going to adopt that, something that I had to have seen. Because again, I'll just say the two that were on there was, of course, that shocking moments for those who watched. And probably more was, well, first off, Mankind getting thrown off Hell in a Cell, right? That's a shocking moment in wrestling where it's kind of like, whoa. And then the other one was, of course, the Montreal screw job. That was another one that, as an honorable mention I did have on there. But I like this. I do.
Burning some of my lip, bro.
Oh, did you watch Montreal? Is that why? I'm
No, I didn't
sorry.
watch Montreal, but I watched the Hell in a Cell. But it's not on my
Oh, okay.
list.
Well, that's
It's
okay.
not.
That's
It's
not.
not.
Oh,
It's
is
not
it?
on my list. It's not on my
Oh,
list.
okay, okay. So, I got really, I do. Then I guess I got 11 on here, but that's okay. I'll try to figure it out. But anyway, I do have a picture for this one, and I'll use that first one on there, and that would be make sure here for me the first one, or number 10. We'll roll with 10. Is Eric Bischoff being hired by Vince McMahon when Vince introduced Eric Bischoff? You know, that to me, my criteria is stuff was a shocking moment that made me go, jump. Same kind of thing with the entrance music that got you go, whoa. You know, I am a WCW guy. I grew up on WCW. I am a WCW mark. Eric Bischoff doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, for the wrestling genius that he was, even though he wasn't like a Paul Heyman who grew up in it, even though he was kind of involved a little bit in it, or Vince McMahon. But what he was able to do in WCW is bar none. And he brought not it wasn't TNA. It wasn't AEW before McMahon left. It wasn't Paul Heyman in ECW. It was Eric Bischoff who pushed, and it wasn't even Ted Turner. It was Eric Bischoff who pushed McMahon and WWF at the time to the limit, where they actually feared they had to shut down. And so to think Eric Bischoff would be on WWE television in that role at that time, that moment right there that you see on that screen of them shaking hands, whoever would have thought you would have seen the day that would have been? Nobody, not one person. So that was one of the first off a mark moment for me and then also a shocking moment where I went like, oh shit. And I wanted to see kind of like, even though they kind of
Yep.
teased, I wanted to see Hogan and Bischoff have a little more interactions just because of their connection to WCW. But that opened so many doors and I was so excited. And I loved when Eric Bischoff kind of ran into Booker T backstage, and Booker's like, "Tell me I did not just see that." That was so damn cool. So that's my number 10 most shocking moment in wrestling history.
All right, all right. I dig that. I like that one a lot. Actually, it's not on my list. I'm glad. I think. I don't think we're gonna have any crossover. I think we're gonna be. At least it's shaping up that way. So my number 9 is a moment on Monday Night Raw on March 31st, 2023. March 31st, 2003. And yes, I am in the Pokemon Go battle. Just to let you guys know, I'm a little bit distracted, but not too distracted. I'll get through it. So The Rock's coming out after beating Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania, saying how he's a big Hollywood star. He has no more challenges. He beat them all. He beat Kurt Angle, beat 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 them all. Not John Cena at the time. Beat Stone Cold, beat everybody. He came back from Hollywood to wrestle for you, for your enjoyment, and you booed him. So he's going back because he has nothing to prove here. And then the fans I didn't know this at the time because I wasn't a mark. The fans started going, Goldberg, Goldberg. And I'm like, it's kind of weird. Okay, whatever. And then The Rock kind of pushes it off, blows it off, does a little bit more promo to make people forget what's going on. And all of a sudden you hear that music, Goldberg comes out. And me in 2003 was like, holy shit, it's the first time we're seeing Goldberg here. Sorry, Bobby. Holy crap, Goldberg and Rock's going to happen. Like, this is a real thing. At the time, it was the coolest thing to me ever because that's when WCW guys are going over there. We're seeing this thing actually happen. We never thought we would. I was never a fan of The Rock, but I was a big fan of Goldberg at that time. So I thought that was super cool and super shocking to see that. I don't know how you felt about that.
So I don't have that on my list, but as a WCW mark, I absolutely pop for it. I don't have it as one of my shocking moments because I think I was a little bit aware it was going to go down. But of course, Goldberg going in WWE, it was like, you had all these dream matches. And then Rock versus Goldberg was awesome. Cap, I see your questions in there, brother. We'll get to them towards the end of the show. You got some good ones in there, bro. Let me say, my number 9 is a WCW moment. It's not a popular moment. I did pop for it, and you'll know why. We've talked about it. Just because it's like, yeah, they're back together. I almost went Kevin Nash beating Goldberg, defeating the undefeated streak. But even though that was a moment, a shocking moment because of what Goldberg was and who he was at that time, it was the night after, which was the most shocking out of those two.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the finger poke of doom.
Okay.
Hogan versus Nash. Hogan was at that time running for president, quote unquote. He was in backstage. He had his jacket on. He wasn't supposed to wrestle, and he challenges Nash for the world title. It's supposed to be this mega clash. I remember sitting in front of my screen. I was ready to go, and was hyped for this. And I think this was at my father's house in Coral Springs at the time. And all of a sudden, they walk up, they face up, and it's pop. 1, 2, 3. Hogan's the world champion. All is right in the world again. They're hugging. It was like one of those moments. But I mean, my goodness, one of the most infamous moments, but also one of the most shocking moments in wrestling history was the finger poke of doom.
Yep. I can't argue with you, man. That's one of the worst moments in wrestling history. But hey, shocking doesn't always mean good or happy. It could be bad shocking. So I understand. I watched that live too. It was terrible. So I want to go back to the Goldberg thing, not to talk about Goldberg, but if there's a moment that was shocking, it's going to be off my list. I'm just going to put it out there since you put something off yours. Chris Jericho debuting against The Rock on Raw. I knew that was happening, so it wasn't shocking to me. So I didn't know Goldberg. How did you know? Were you in the know? Did you get phone calls? Were you on Reddit back then? I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, the little dirt
yeah,
sheets. Yeah, man. You know how
Yeah,
I like spoilers.
Things. All right, cool. My number 8 is another return. A lot of mine are returns because returns to me are the coolest thing. Returns are debuts. They're the coolest thing to me. It's one of the coolest things of all time. This happened last year, almost to the day. CM Punk returns to WWE at Survivor Series. That's I just watched it again. I watched it multiple times back to back to back actually today because it was just so chilling. What I was looking for was the reaction from the wrestlers inside of the ring. Because if you watch it, which I did multiple times, as soon as the match ended, they all started looking at the rampway. So you can't tell me they all didn't know. They knew something was going to happen. But it didn't matter because none of us knew. The freaking thing came out, production, copyright, WWE. I thought the show was over. When I watch a PLE or a pay-per-view, when I see that thing come up or when I see there's nothing going to happen, I turn it off. I almost turned this off. The reason why I didn't turn it off because my PlayStation 5 controller was charging on the desk across the room from me, so I couldn't hit circle fast enough, so I couldn't get up. I was out of my bed already, and I heard shh. I'm like, I get back in bed. I'm like, all right, I gotta watch this. So that was a shocking moment to me. I knew he was going to debut eventually. Didn't know it was going to be that soon. I thought it was awesome.
That's awesome. I think that's good. That just revealed. I mean, that's a little higher. That's I guess 6 on mine. CM Punk returns to WWE again. A lot of these are unexpected. And even though there was rumblings and it's in Chicago, could have happened. Nobody really thought CM Punk would come back to WWE. Not even though Vince wasn't there, it was still Triple H, and we know how he felt about Paul Levesque beforehand. It's like it can never happen. It will never happen. I mean, Seth Rollins telling Phil, "Stay away. You're a cancer. You're this." There's no way. And then that little, which was amazing, from Paul Levesque, Triple H, and company, the production truck, just to put that little caption at the end that knows that's usually when you see that, you're like, oh, that's it. Yep. All right, there's nothing else. But that came on. It was the biggest false finish of that show. That was the best false finish because also you get that, and you're like, no way. CM Punk returning, and he didn't even have to do anything. He just came out, smiled at the crowd, sat there, smirked. Seth Rollins was going nuts.
Yep.
One of the most awesome moments in recent history, in wrestling history. CM Punk returning to WWE. And we'll just skip that part for me. That was number 6, but I'll skip that. But for me,
go to your next one.
The next one, sticking with Seth Rollins, would be the Money in the Bank cash in at WrestleMania, the main event. Seth Rollins cashing in. It's Roman Reigns for Brock Lesnar, one of the big time main events. Obviously people were hating on Roman at that point, but we all kind of figured this is going to be Roman's night. And Seth had a match earlier in the day, in the daytime, against Randy Orton, got beat by Randy on one of the most awesome RKOs of all time, to come out and steal a win, the WWE Championship. No one expected this, and it went down. This is one of the most shocking moments in wrestling history, I believe, and it comes in at number 8 for me on this list. I think that's the number we're on.
Okay, so this is off my list because of one reason and one reason only, and a very infamous reason. If you watch Real Talk Wrestling, this is a saga that's been going on for a while. Back in my day, we used to go to my friend George's house, and we would actually have money on the cards. We would do scorecards. We
Mm.
would do, and we would gamble on it, and just $5 a bet, right? But like there would be 8 of us, and on my scorecard, I put in Seth Rollins cashes in during the match to make it a triple threat match and wins. I put that on my freaking scorecard. I won, obviously, because no one expected it. Chris Colfer says I didn't do it. And there's a tragedy. There is a conspiracy going on saying that Josh didn't call this. You said no one saw this coming. I'm the one, besides the one who booked it. But I am the one, and I'm not getting no credit for it. Although it was still shocking when it happened. It was one of the greatest finishes in WrestleMania history.
Yeah.
One of the greatest. So it was great, man. Like I miss those days. I wish, you know what, we still get those because look, I had a 2023 moment on there.
There you go.
I feel like we don't get any moments anymore because we all know. Like we just know.
We kind of figure it. Oh, even if it's not reported. I mean, how long have we been? I was looking at the T-shirts yesterday for Bloodline, for OG Bloodline. You and I have been talking about OG Bloodline for a while now, and now that's a T-shirt. I mean, we I mean, that's what's crazy. We were calling OG Bloodline. It could have just said the original Bloodline, but they go OG Bloodline, and it's like, damn, we've been saying that term for a while. It's even though it's a great story and we're enjoying it and it's leaving you connected, it's hard not to figure these things out. It's easy to figure these things out. Mm-hmm. There's a few things in wrestling now that catch you by surprise. CM Punk was one of those. There's another one on this list that's one of those. But very few of them. I'm not gonna spoil it. Gonna spoil it. Well, your next one.
All right, my next one. Jon Moxley debuts in AEW, Double or Nothing. So I watched this again. It was the main event was Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. Chris Jericho wins, and at this time he wants appreciation from the fans. He wants a thank you because he's the reason why AEW is doing so well. Yes, the crowd was hot, the fans were hot. That place was doing well at that time. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, they make it real. You don't see like, all right. Production truck, play my music. Who are you? Do you work here? I'm making my debut, bro. Play my music. Put Titantron up. No, he came from the stands. And then Jim Ross is selling it. Who's this guy? Who is this guy? Jim Ross is on the mic. And then you hear Tony Schiavone like, why is this guy running through the stands? Like, who is this? He jumps the gate, gets in the ring, boom, hits his finisher on Jericho. The referee's like, who are you? What's going on? Boom, he hits his finisher on the ref. Kenny Omega's recovering, trying to get up because he's just got a beat down from Chris Jericho. They fight in the crowd. The infamous moment where Jon Moxley gets him on top of the pile of poker chips. Boom, hits his finisher on Kenny Omega. This is the first big WWE star besides Jericho because Jericho actually didn't come over from WWE. He just was there from day one. This is the first person ever to come over from WWE to AEW, which is a huge thing because we didn't all think this was going to work out. It did at that time, was working out just awesome. And Jon Moxley was the biggest star in wrestling at that time. You cannot tell me any differently. We were all excited for it. I'm sure you were excited for it because it was a massive statement. Hey, I'm Jon Moxley. I'm no longer Dean Ambrose, and I'm making a difference here in AEW, and I believe in this company. Now we're in 2024, and it's a little bit different. But at the time, no one saw that coming.
Well, it was very, this almost made my list, but very Scott Hall, Kevin Nash-esque. When Scott Hall showed up coming through the crowd, you all know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. And even though it wasn't that much, even if we knew he was a free agent, we knew that no one expected at that time. And it was huge because you just got one of the big stars of the other company to actually jump ship at that point. Because Jericho was a free agent. That was like you said, he didn't come from WWE. He was already out of WWE at that point in time. So it was one of those moments. So I could absolutely see that making a list. And it was huge at that point in time for AEW. Did it matter in the end? No, but it was huge at that time. For sure. For me, I would say the next one that was shocking, even, that no one expected because whoever really would have saw him being the champion at that time, he didn't fit the size. He didn't really, you didn't really see at that point in time anybody like him being the champion at that point. But it was one of the most shocking moments, but also one of the best moments in wrestling history. They just celebrated him. We just had his anniversary from his passing, but Eddie Guerrero winning the WWE title, beating Brock Lesnar. One of the most awesome moments in wrestling history, but also one of the most shocking because of who he beat and Eddie Guerrero being the one to be the champion at that point. And what a hell of a run. I mean, that solidified him as a legend in wrestling. Winning the WWE title, the fashion with the crowd reaction, the love they had for him, how fast not only the audience but the locker room got behind him as champion. The feuds he had with Kurt Angle, the WrestleMania 20 moment he had with Benoit at the end. I mean, the feud he had with JBL. But this started it all, and to me, it was one of the most shocking, but again, awesome moments for wrestling.
Yep, can't go wrong with that one. Not on my list. It was considered, very, very much so considered. Anything Eddie Guerrero was great times, man. I'm glad you're a big Eddie fan.
100%.
My number 6 is another AEW. Yes, I know. There's other ones, guys. This was December 20th, 2020. Team Taz was in the ring. If you don't know Team Taz, it was Will Hobbs, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks. Yeah, Team Taz. they were beating up Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson. And then all of a sudden you hear this music. Again, a person's in the back going, "Hey, play my music. Do you work here?" "Yeah, I just signed yesterday." "Cool. All right, cool." All right. So then we hear this music going off. I'm thinking, you know where I'm going. Snow starts falling because the that's back when Dynamite did shows like winter is coming, and this is it. Sting debuts in AEW. We get a genuine "it's Sting" from Tony Schiavone. Everyone after that was manufactured and not authentic, but we get that authentic "it's Sting" because that's the WCW voice of Tony Schiavone.
Tony Schiavone, yep. Classic Tony with Sting, yep.
The icon Sting, and then he goes in the ring, and you don't know what Sting's doing there. You don't know what he's doing. He gets first thing he does, gets right in Arn Anderson's face. Gets right in his face and just looks at him like, "I'm going to kick your ass." Then he gets in Dustin Rhodes' face. Gets in his face, "I'm going to kick your ass." Gets in Cody's face, "I'm going to kick your ass." And then he just stares at Darby Allin for like minutes and then walks away. And that to me, because Sting's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, I was super into AEW, wanting him to succeed so bad. I thought this was going to be the thing that pushes them over the top because Sting is such an icon. And it did for a while. And everything Sting did was awesome. But that debut right there is like, holy crap, what else can this company do? Because at that time was my mega markings. Like I was marking out over everything they did. What's next? What else? Who else could they get? If they got Sting, they can get anyone. So to me, that was just such a great debut. I loved it.
So I think that's fair. I really enjoy it. I mean, I didn't have that on my list, nor did I have the other Sting debut, which was on WWE, which was, I think, equally, if not more, shocking. Because how long did we all want to see Sting in WWE? Mm-hmm. And how long we thought it was going to happen, but it didn't happen. And then he was another shocking moment that involved Sting was when he appeared on the WWE 2K game. I think it was 2K16 when they played the commercial. We're watching the commercial on TV on Monday Night Raw one night, and you're seeing, WWE 2K, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you hear, and you see this thing turn around, you go, "Oh shit, that was cool." And then those made my list, but you just hit me with a jolt of lightning here. And then but Survivor Series again, Triple H has Dolph Ziggler, and also you hear that and you're like, it's Sting's face when it done. Goosebumps right now. One of the coolest moments. If you love pro wrestling, legitimate love pro wrestling, you should be you better be a fan of Sting. Yep. I mean, he is professional wrestling. I mean, he's gone how many decades? And it wasn't just WCW, it was NWA, WCW, TNA, WWE, AEW. Yep. I mean, how many companies he was a top guy in, how many decades he was a top guy in. Sting is just it again. And you even to this day, he's not, you just said, I wonder what he's going to do next. Oh my goodness. We all know it's not the same Sting, but how many of us would have loved to see Sting win AEW title or WWE title? Come on, dude.
No, I wouldn't.
Don't tell me you would not have popped the Scorpion Deathlock.
I wouldn't.
He's tapping.
I wouldn't.
Mega history. You would have Sting as your world champion. Oh, come on.
I wouldn't. I'm not. Listen, I like debuts like that, and I like Sting a lot, but having him win a world championship when John Moxley or Kenny Omega or Adam Page
Oh,
or
but
MJF are
look,
there,
all those guys won it. And where's AEW today? Where is AEW today? All those guys were your world. Everyone you just said was the AEW world champion. And where is AEW right now? What did it do for the company? You put a legitimate guy who could still draw tickets. You could go to any city in the United States. Sting, 60 years old, main event in a tag match, but main event, world title match, Sting against John Moxley, Kenny Omega, MJF as the heel. You're going to sell out that arena. There's not going to be an empty seat in that arena. John Moxley, Kenny Omega, or John Moxley, Darby Allin, AEW World Title. Oh my God, they're getting a fresh start. How many people are sitting in that arena?
It's gonna be a banger.
Oh, it's gonna be a banger. No one's gonna watch.
I'm gonna watch.
No one's gonna watch.
I'll be watching, buddy.
From home.
I'll be because I don't live wherever they're at.
Pre-recorded. Come on, man. Come on. All those guys you mentioned were the AEW champion. What did it do? You put Sting AEW champion like that. It's done. They didn't do it. They wasted an opportunity because they had guys like you're like, oh, give it to this gym rat over here.
Yeah.
Okay. What did it do?
Yeah. He's next in line. We'll
that's why when Chris Jericho was the first AEW champion, Jericho, look what the arenas were. Look what it did.
Fans were pissed. They wanted.
But they all went and showed up. They all paid tickets to watch Chris Jericho. They were pissed.
I know.
Just like they were pissed when Hulk Hogan was the world champion again, but they all paid tickets to watch him. Or Goldberg. They're all pissed online about Goldberg being the champion, yet everyone pays tickets to see it. Please.
That was my last AEW on this list.
Thank God. Of course, AEW takes over everything for us here. We go rambling on. I didn't have this picture on here, and I'm a little pissed because I did save it. And I think I'm missing something else, and I'm a little livid, which was there's two of them, right? Yeah. So the next one would be for me, Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. That was a shocking moment. I don't remember having any kind of feeling that was going to go down. I knew they probably weren't going to last that long past that point, and it seemed kind of like, even though I was popped for Evolution reuniting and all that, but that was a continuation of that story I did not expect. And obviously, it sold really well. It set all three of those guys, and all those guys from Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns went on to become mega stars in their own right. But that was a shocking moment that propelled those guys into superstardom. When they were just regular stars, they went to superstardom with that in line. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, that's my number 4. So I'll just tag along with you. It was June 2nd, 2014. I remember very well. Did not understand what I was watching. When Triple H says, you always have a plan B or whatever. Yeah, it's right. Always have a plan B.
Plan B. Yep.
That's exactly what happened. I'm like, him of all people. That was my thing. Him. He's the one. It's not Roman. That was my thought.
That's fair. Right? Well, because you were like, it's the same thing. I mean, all respect. It's the same thing with Dean Ambrose. You're kind of like, well, if it was Dean, you're like, Dean?
Well,
Seth?
When they first came out, reports were Dean was the big star in that one, and they were trying to push Dean. He was the U.S. title champion.
He was a U.S. champion. That's right.
He was supposed to be the one. He was supposed to be the one they wanted to push, the main star. But then as they went on, it was Roman. And we all knew it was Roman. And that's why I thought Roman turning heel, I thought he was going to be the one that did it eventually. But when Seth did it, that was my shock factor. Seth? Like, he's the least interesting one. The dude with the blonde streak.
And it ended up selling so damn well. He was perfect for that role, man.
It worked really well. And I was shocked by that moment just because they just beat the Evolution team at the pay-per-view, I believe, the night before. Like, literally. Wasn't it right after? Wasn't it right after that?
Yeah, that was Monday Night Raw. They beat them the night before, and then Monday Night Raw, I think, and then Batista have a black eye or something.
Yeah, all that just for them to turn. Like, that was why it was so shocking, because I was like, you just had a war. And then the next day you're like, cool. So it was a good shock. I liked it. I love heel turns. Heel turns are great. Heel turns are one of my favorite things in wrestling. So yeah, it was great. Seth Rollins was that's my number 4, but I'll move it down.
All right, there you go. Go ahead with your next one. Hold on, I'm gonna check on something to yell at my kids, make sure they're doing all right.
All right, you'll yell at him. We got Nexus debuting June 7th, 2010. They attacked Cena and CM Punk, who were in the main event of that show specifically. Nexus just came in and blew everything up. That was shocking to me. I think I was there. And I say I think
NXT? Or you bring up
Nexus.
NXT? Oh,
Yeah, they were.
Nexus. When they
Yeah,
showed up and beat up John Cena and the whole crew,
yeah, and they choked
that was an
out John
awesome moment
Roberts,
for
and,
sure.
and Cole was in his little coal miner, whatever, like that Pope thing. He had the. Remember that?
Yeah,
He was in
yeah.
that little thing over there. I think someone grabbed his tie or something like that, and like say, I can't remember everything that happened because I think I was there. And what I mean by that, I have memories of me being at that Raw, but I also have memories of me watching that Raw. So I wonder if I went back and had to watch the attack because I couldn't see everything from my seats. But I'm pretty sure it was either in Orlando or Miami, and I was there. So that was a very shocking moment for me. I loved it, still love it. Can't believe they fired Daniel Bryan for doing what he did, but it is what it is. Great moment. None of those guys worked out, but at the time, it was a shocking moment. John Cena buried them. John Cena is the reason why they didn't work, by the way, which we all know.
Well, and I will say though that that I don't have that on my list, but I thought that was one of the cool moments. I love moments like that where it looks like they're totally unbeatable, and there's these guys, and we never know, unless of course you were paying attention, but no one really knew who those guys were yet. You were like, whoa, wait a minute, what the hell's happening right now? And they're throwing the announcer, and now you're like kind of like even you got like a little bit like, whoa, damn. It reminded me of a moment, I don't have it on this list, but another moment kind of like with Eddie Guerrero, but I did watch this live and it was really cool to see, was Royal Rumble when Rey Mysterio won. That was an awesome moment. Even though like everybody, even though Chavo was his nephew, we all thought Rey was one carrying that banner. So that was an awesome moment. I didn't have it on my list, but you just reminded me of that when attending. What number are we on? Are we on 7 now?
7, brother. We're on I guess 3.
No,
I'm
I don't
going
think we're on 3.
10-1, right? I have
It was
3 left.
Eddie, Finger,
I have 3
Seth,
left.
cashing in. I brought up CM Punk because you brought up CM Punk.
I have 3 left.
Well, I think we're on 6. Maybe, I don't know. Either way. Don't one of the ones there, I'll just say this one because he's on my list, but I don't have a picture there. But I thought it was a shocking moment. It was, and now they repeat it all the time with other big guys. But Brock Lesnar superplexing Big Show and busting up the ring. Yep. That was an awesome, shocking moment from that ruthless aggression era.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. You see it too many times now. I mean, it doesn't happen every year, but when it happens, like we knew it was going to happen with Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed, right? We all expected it to happen. So it was cool at the time, and it still is cool. I'll tell you this. Let me ask you this. Off topic. Was that moment cooler? I'm not saying shocking. Was it cooler than when Brock Lesnar got the forklift and lifted up that ring against Roman Reigns? Which one was cooler?
I think Brock and Big Show was cooler.
Okay.
I mean, I mean, for me, okay, you said cooler. The most shocking, I would say that Big Show Brock Lesnar was shocking. Was more shocking. But no, Brock lifting the ring like that was cool. That was cool. So cool. That was cool. Putting the hat on and all that. Yeah, that was cool. We could skip CM Punk for me. So what's your next one?
All right, let's go back to my list real quick. We're going to go to, these are all studs. These are
I got
all
4 left,
here.
by the way. I do have 4 left.
Well, then you go again because I have 3 left.
Okay. Well, then the next one for me would be a moment that you just, I think, talked about recently. If hopefully I can find it. You were talking about the music. Last show, one of the greatest entrances of all time, entrance music of all time. But one of the most shocking returns was at the Royal Rumble, and that was Edge showing up after years of being retired. I mean, that time when you heard that music, I mean, talk about a pop, not just in the arena, but at home. You literally screamed out loud. Was Edge returning to wrestling, not just WWE, but to wrestling, to see Edge return after all those years and to come out and have look the way he looked and the same aura and all this whatnot. I mean, one of the coolest and most shocking moments in wrestling, in my opinion.
So that works out fine because that's my number 3. Obviously, we all knew that was going to be on my list. Edge returning in 2020. I remember listening to the Edge and Christian podcast, and I never listened to their podcast ever. I listened to one episode, and it so happens to be their very last episode, which is ironic. Edge was talking about a time where he was riding a bike. He was training to do some kind of bike marathon or whatever, and it was a mountain bike. So he fell and he fell, and then he was talking to Christian about it. He's like, "Yeah, man, like I fell," and Christian's like, "Well, how'd you do? Like, how'd you hold up?" He goes, "I think I could take bumps." And like they started talking about like how returning to wrestling should whatever, but they were just kind of like half-assed joking about it. Like they moved
Hmm.
on. That was the last show they ever did, and they went away for a while, and I'm like, is he gonna wrestle again? And a year went by, nothing ever happened. No one ever heard of anything. There was no, in my eyes, I didn't see any dirt sheets. I had no idea this was gonna happen. And then when that moment hit, I'm watching it with my wife, who doesn't really know wrestling or care about wrestling or understand wrestling. She just thinks The Rock is hot. That's all she knows, right? She's in love with The Rock. That's all she cares about. So I stand up when I hear that music, and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, I have a look on my face. She said I looked like I just saw a ghost. That's how she describes my facial expression when I saw Edge, and that's what it was. Like, did I just see this man's career revive? One of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Yes, top three. It was almost number one, but it couldn't beat out number one. That's my
There
number
you
three.
go. My number three, it was, he had been gone for a while. Uh, when he came back, and it was because he was in the video game. That's what it was. Um, they announced him with no kind of inkling of what he was going to do. At that time, Brock Lesnar was running wild on WWE, unbeatable. You couldn't touch him. You couldn't touch him. Nobody could really. They had great matches, but couldn't beat. There was nobody there to really scare him. But this guy showed up, and he said, "Lesnar, you're last." Of course, it didn't end up being last. And then it was this epic storyline that went on to, or build up to, Survivor Series. And you thought you were going to see, I mean, because, if you think about his prior run, he did have some lengthy matches, and, he had some, where this year you're like, okay, this is going to be Brock versus Goldberg. This is going to be an epic clash of the Titans. And it wasn't. Goldberg squashed Lesnar at Survivor Series. And I remember when I first saw him, when Lesnar picked up Goldberg and threw him in the corner, and then Goldberg pushed Lesnar's face, and in this two spears, and then the jackhammer, and listening to Paul Heyman. I mean, everybody, especially, I was like, what the hell? Everybody was freaking out. The arena was flipping out. They were screaming. Nobody was saying, "Oh, BS." No, people were loving this. And I listened to Goldberg afterwards, saying that was all Brock. Lesnar thought Goldberg was like, "We're gonna have a match." Lesnar's like, "No, you need to squash me. This needs to look legit." And I mean, it sold off so damn well. This is the top three for me. Number three, most shocking moment, when Goldberg, because Brock Lesnar was on the top of his game at this point. I mean, what he did to John Cena, what he did to Taker, what he did to everybody, for Goldberg to show up and be his Achilles heel. And this wasn't just the only time. It was the Royal Rumble, where he just easily threw Brock Lesnar over the rope. This started it, and this really sold Goldberg off really well, to kind of give him that third push of his career before people got sick of him, but also make Brock Lesnar look like, holy crap. And then, of course, Brock Lesnar came off really strong at the WrestleMania. But this was my top three.
Yeah. It was something. It was cool, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't at that time. I grew up and I said, "Oh yeah, Goldberg sucks." So it was shocking though. I thought you were going to talk about John Cena getting destroyed by Brock Lesnar on SummerSlam. That was shocking too.
Well, talk about John Cena, and I watched it this morning, and I didn't have him on my list, but I was kind of like, damn it.
Yeah,
I should have thought of it. It was John Cena returning at the Royal Rumble, when he was out with Big Bird, and he came back at the Madison Square Garden. That was awesome.
Yep.
Of course, the squash match between Lesnar and Cena was crazy.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. So my number two, this is the first time we ever saw a cash in in 2006, New Year's Revolution. Edge comes out, cashes in. It's the first time we've ever seen it happen. So we didn't know how it was going to work. What was he doing? Oh, he can just cash in after John Cena's dead. After John Cena's left in a bloody mess after an Elimination Chamber match, you can just do that. I mean, I'm sure that was spouted out in some kind. Michael Cole said that, or Jim Ross, or whoever was doing it at the time said, "Yeah, this could happen anytime, anywhere." But you didn't think it could happen at any time, anywhere, especially after the end of a pay-per-view especially after the end of an elimination chamber. That was shocking to me to see Edge walk away with that title after all that carnage just happened. That was one of the coolest moments, and it spawned the coolest idea WWE's had in a long time, which is Money in the Bank, which has lost its luster a lot. We got guys cashing in on United States titles. You guys got guys like Otis winning the title. You guys have the briefcase going into court for some reason. It was such a good idea. And it was such an amazing, shocking idea every single time. Think about all the cash-ins before it got lost in the shuffle of Otis and everyone else. You had Dolph Ziggler do it on Raw against Alberto Del Rio. That was almost on my list, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to pick my favorite cash-in moment, and honestly, the first one was the best.
I love it. I think that's absolutely true. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head with the cash-ins because they used to mean something. And obviously, I talked about Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania. Now it's kind of like, okay. So for me, obviously, Damian Priest just pulled that off and he came off really well recently. My number 2 is one of the most shocking, if not the most shocking, even though it's number 2 for me. What nobody thought it was ever going to happen, despite on who he was facing at that point in time. And we just talked about how big and he was at that time and how much of a beast, no pun intended, all pun intended. But Brock beating the Streak at WrestleMania, beating the Undertaker. I mean, I think it was 3 F5s, but we still look at Paul Heyman's face, and no one can forget the face of that fan in the arena. That's legendary, and I hope WWE paid him for keeping that picture, but I don't think they don't have to, because I think they own that after. But I mean, one of the most shocking moments. People are still pissed to this day, but at the same time, everybody went, what? And that's what wrestling's supposed to be. You're not supposed to expect it. That's the best thing about wrestling. Even if you don't like it in the end, it's supposed to make you jump. It's supposed to make you question. And even though you could say, man, it probably would have done better for someone like Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, whatever, this absolutely still to this day, in spite of it being Brock, and Brock did not need it, it's still one of the most shocking moments in wrestling, and it will be probably until the end of time.
Yep. That's my number 1. It didn't move. It has never moved. It was my number 1 from the moment you said, hey, we're doing this. It is, I was spoiled. I told the story before on the show. My brother's girlfriend spoiled this because we had a posit, and she.
Oh, that's right.
And I still didn't believe her. I was like, no, you didn't. No, you could we could be watching football tomorrow. Like, you'd watch the full Dolphins game at 1:00. And I'm like, hey, Bobby, I'm gonna watch the Dolphins game at 4 because let's just talk. We don't talk football, but if we did, I'm gonna watch it at 4. And you're like, oh, don't worry, the Dolphins lost on a walk off, 2-point conversion, fumble, whatever. And I'm like, nah, it didn't happen. I'm gonna watch anyway. And then I'm like, holy crap, it actually happened that way. I didn't believe her. I'm like, nah, Taker didn't lose. That's not happening. And it did. I'm like, I just looked at her like I was get out, get out. Like, I was so annoyed because I didn't think it should have happened. I don't think the streak should have ever ended ever. I don't think it should have.
No. Again, I'm with you in regards of, well, I don't think, and I think Taker agreed. It was Vince McMahon's call, even though Vince said that was Mark's call. No, it wasn't. Taker said it was not his call. Taker again, and I agree with this. It would have done better for Roman. It would have done, even though Roman now is a megastar, and and it would have done great for Bray Wyatt. I mean, because that would have put them over the map, and it would have made them, legends at that point, even though we know what they are now. Brock did not need it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that how shocking it is. And to this day, in spite of it being like, man, it shouldn't have ended, or, oh man, it should not have been Brock, you still go, damn, that was crazy when Brock beat Undertaker at WrestleMania. My number 1, and let me ask you this, because I spoiled your Cody Rhodes last week. Can you spoil my number 1? Do you think you have an idea of what it may be?
I thought it was gonna be Taker. I honestly thought it was gonna be Taker. So I don't know. Is it Hogan? Is it NWO?
There you go. So my number 1, again, I was a WCW guy.
Did you watch that live?
I was young. Okay. And for me, I watched it again not too far after that, I remember on Hollywood Video, I rented it. But most shocking moment, because even when Hogan turned, I thought it was the coolest damn thing. But yeah, my number one most shocking moment is Hogan turning on the fans, turning on the good guys, being the third man. This ended up turning around wrestling. I mean, it made wrestling fun again. It started the Monday Night Wars. WWE and WCW at that time. WCW, like WWE is now, even though WWE is on the top of the world, and they should be at this point because of what they're doing. They're there by default. AEW, even though it has the assets to do it, is not pushing WWE right now. They could push NXT, but they're not pushing WWE. WWE became what WWE is now today by this very moment. This pushed McMahon, Taker, Austin, all these guys to do what they did in order to win this war, to win the Monday Night Wars. This made WCW into what me and Josh care about now. I mean, we fondly remember these times. Nothing was cooler than the NWO, and nothing was more shocking, even if you were around or not. And I can understand if you weren't around at that point, you might go, nah, dude, CM Punk coming back. It's most shocking. You weren't around. Hogan turning and becoming the third member of the NWO was the most shocking moment, because at the time nobody thought it would ever happen. It's like Cena turning heel. And again, what it ended up doing, just the effect it had years later, or all this time. But at that moment in time, it was the most shocking, because, I mean, it would have been crazy if Sting ended up being the third man. Never would have worked. But that's what the report was. But to me, it's Hulk Hogan being the third man is the most shocking moment in my list. Yeah. But I was there. I mean, I was around. I did pay we used to rent it. My dad used to rent WCW. When I used to go to his house, he'd rent the boxing fights and he'd rent WCW pay-per-views. We never really watched WWF. We watched WCW because I loved Sting, Hogan, Flair, right. And then, of course, I would watch them over again because they would come out on video, and I'd go to Hollywood Video and rent them. But yeah, that to me was the coolest moment. Is he the third man? It's like, now you watch it back and like Tony Schiavone's like, shut up, dude. It's like, but yeah, right there, man. So that's our top 10 list.
Yep.
And I don't think, whoever watches, everyone who's tuning in right now and those who watch after, I don't know how many could actually find arguments about the type of moments. Because again, even if you're not an AEW guy, you got to go like Jon Moxley showing up on AEW TV, just coming after WWE. And I mean, that was, like I told you, I mean, it's not as impactful, I guess, but Scott Hall-esque when Scott Hall showed up on TV, Razor Ramon, and then of course Kevin Nash coming, I think a week later, 2 weeks, I don't know when it was, but and it's Sting, and I love that you brought up Sting. And again, I mean, it's like, God dang, dude, I was getting goosebumps even though I'm wearing this damn jacket. When Sting showed up on WWE 2K and WWE TV, it was like, everybody loves Sting. So awesome list, man, and I love that we could push each other, man. It's fun. It was always fun talking.
I'm just surprised you didn't do like Charlotte Flair returning for the 10th time, 12th time. Charlotte Flair kicking the wind. Charlotte Flair kicking the window in Ronda Rousey's face when she shouldn't even be in the title match at all.
You're right. That's my new number one. Charlotte Flair kicking her in the face. Well, they had to put her in there because nobody would have gave a damn if it was just Becky and her and Ronda. You had to put Charlotte. You had to put the legend in there. You have to put the living legend, Charlotte Flair.
Yeah. I cannot wait. I mean, I can wait till she comes back. Jeez.
I cannot wait. No, I can wait. I can wait a while.
For the rest of my life, baby. Like for the rest of my life.
Dude, I got to get a Charlotte Flair t-shirt. I'm going to wear it every day, dude. Charlotte Flair all day. I should put her poster like back there somewhere. Maybe.
Yeah, you should get her. I'll send you a Mercedes signed 8x10. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I'll burn it live on her. No, just kidding. Oh, man. Josh, any final thoughts, brother?
Yeah, man. Great shows this weekend. Great shows coming up. I know Cap's been here the whole time, and I do want to get to a couple of things he said.
Yeah.
Because Cap's one of our go-to guys, man.
Cap's awesome, man.
back in the almost an hour ago, he asked is WWE going to do a Cody overkill? They already have. They already have, um,
Spoiler.
but you know what though? I get it though. I understand why they're doing it. And what's gonna happen is guys like me are gonna boo him, and then 10, 15 years from now, we're gonna wish for him to come back, just like we do Cena. So, and I'm
Yeah.
old enough and mature enough to realize that. So I appreciate Cody. Who's gonna get the next push? Bobby, who is gonna get the next push? Who's gonna be the next star in line in WWE? Rapid fire. Don't go crazy.
Damn. That's a great question. The
And
fourth push, like not already a main attraction?
yeah, some guy who's in the mid, like what they're doing with Bronson Reed now. You can see they're trying to push him to that Umaga type level of like crazy heel monster, but he's never going to win like the world title. But who's that next guy that's going to be the next guy? Like who's going to be the chosen one like Drew McIntyre was?
I
I have
have
a
to
I
think.
have a couple guys on my list.
Okay. If I had to go off the top of my head, and they're kind of already starting that push. Oh, and shout out Shinsuke Nakamura's back. Thought that was really cool. He came back last night and a surprise attacked LA Knight. But Braun Breaker, even though I
Yeah.
know, I think Braun Breaker is going to be that, because he's not main, he's mid tier right
Mm-hmm.
now. But I think Braun Breaker is that next guy that's going to be pushed to a mega status eventually.
And Damian Priest.
Oh, that's great. I
In
love
Damian
that.
Priest. He's
Yeah.
going to be like I think the way he went toe
What
to toe
did you
with
think of
Gunther,
that promo, dude? Did you
great.
watch Raw?
Yeah, I was just about to bring it up. The way he went one on one with Gunther in that promo battle, he won that promo battle. Gunther usually wins. Gunther crushed Cody week after week after week.
Well,
Cody,
Gunther did great selling it though.
yeah,
Gunther. I mean, his facial reactions were kind of like, damn.
yeah,
But
it was
like
great.
Damian Priest, everybody, oh, I don't want to see Damian Priest. I'm not interested. Bullshit. Damian Priest versus Gunther's gonna be a fun match, and Damian Priest deserves to be in that spot.
Yep.
And his growth from where he was to where he is right now, not just in the ring, but as a character on the mic. I mean, God, dude, it's hard not to root for that guy. I love that answer. That's a great answer. And it's fair because even though he was the champion, he wasn't really, he hasn't had that major push. So I think him making a big run, it's fair. I love his song. I love his entrance. I love the shout outs to Scott Hall. I'm the bad guy.
Yep. I love it.
But yeah, him and Braun Breaker, I think those are great answers. Solo's cover too. I think Solo's really done a great job.
Jacob Fatu too, right?
Jacob Fatu, I was going to say Jacob, but I think that's kind of an easy one. I think he has a little. I mean, obviously on the mic he is a killer, and in the ring he's a killer. Once he's on his own, we'll get a better feeling from him. Solo for me, especially because I was, I mean, I'm not speak for you, but you as well. But I was very critical of his booking and what he's done with, ever since Cena and the way he's lost everything. And it's like, man, I can't take him seriously. But his growth, again, as the leader of the bloodline, the new bloodline, but on the microphone, his character work, obviously his in-ring work. I mean, I could see him now taken seriously as a kind of a main event competitor. Does it ever equate to world championship? Whoever knows. Again, I could see it, and I'm cool with it because there's 2 world titles. You could spare one to give these other guys a push. But Solo is definitely there. Jacob Fatu, I mean, again, I just saw this right now pop up. I love you, Solo. I cannot wait to hear, because he's always, I love you, Solo.
Yep.
I cannot wait to hear when he goes, I hate you, Solo. And the crowd is going to, and Solo's going, what? And I cannot wait for that moment. Every time he screams, I love you, Solo, that moment pops in my head. And I hope they do. I hope they don't. I don't want to say waste them because they didn't. I think Umaga was fun. And I think Umaga should have been a champ, especially when there's 2 world titles. You could spare one to push guys. That's what I mean. But like, even though he's better on the microphone, you could. I mean, his promos. If you even watch him, I was watching some old promos of him in the Indies. I mean, and those were WWE-esque. And then what he said to Roman the other night, was like, God dang, this dude is so damn good. So it's like I can see that's again, I want to see him on a solo run, no pun intended, but. I think that's a great answer. Jacob Fatu, for sure. It has to be there.
So that's all I got, man.
Okay. No, and Cap, thank you, man. Appreciate you as always. everyone who's watching, wherever you're watching from, we appreciate you. If you watch afterwards, give us your top 10 shocking moments, most shocking moments in wrestling history. And you don't have to follow our criteria. You just, off the top of your head, man, that has to be the most shocking. But it would be great to know what you've seen that made you jump out of your seat. You catch us again here on FTSN. Catch Josh on Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football podcast, and of course, Real Talk Wrestling. Catch me tomorrow again on the Miami Dolphins pregame show, FTSN, at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then 8 p.m. Eastern time, we got our post-game show. So should be celebrating a Miami Dolphins win. I have it winning 38-17 against the Raiders. I mean, if the Dolphins lose against the Raiders, who are 2-7 and giving up 28 points a game, wrap it up, bro. Just wrap it up. Josh, do you have a prediction?
Yeah, my prediction is fire McDaniels. Wrap it up.
I love it. Well, I know Finstanza loves it. I love it because it's just how you just shot it out there. Yeah, well, that's my thing. If you lose tomorrow against the Raiders, the Dolphins, especially, again, they shouldn't be 3-6. I'm already pissed off. They should be 6-3. With the talent they have on this roster and the hype they had on it, they should be 6-3. But if they lose to the Raiders tomorrow, 2-7, as bad as the Raiders are, you fire Greer, you fire McDaniel, and you just start it out. F it all.
Start over. I agree.
Good. That's the one and only Josh Kimmel. I'm Bobby Melendez. We appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.